What if Revan rescued Leia at the Death Star in A New Hope? Let's explore the depths of it in the video. Leia sits in her cell, trying to make sense of what just happened. Alderaan, her entire homeworld, was lost. She had just watched it blown apart right before her eyes, all in the span of a heartbeat. But as her mind struggles to wrap around it, she feels her grief threatening to overcome her. Her father, her mother, billions of people, all gone, all to prove a point. She feels tears starting to sting her eyes and opens her mouth. She wants to scream into the heavens and curse the Empire for everything they have done. Her hands curl into fists and bang against her cell door. She feels a strange power in her chest. It tugs at her, urging her to give in to her anger, to reach deep within herself and let it all out. The Empire had taken everything from her, and now she just wants to take it all back. Her fingers tighten against the wall, trying to rip at it while her breath comes out in ragged gasps. Something in her stomach tightens, coiling up and waiting to be unleashed. With it, she prepares to unleash it all, and then she hears it, a massive rumbling from outside, followed by the shouts of the guards and blaster fire. Leia steps back, wondering if she caused that, but she has no time to dwell as the screams of the guards fill the air. They sound close as they seem to retreat down the hallways. She reaches the edge of her cell when a lightsaber suddenly bursts through the metal door, burning a hole through the durasteel. A moment later, they explode inward as someone kicks it open. Leia's eyes widen at her rescuer, a large man in red Mandalorian armor. His face is covered by a helmet and a hood, while a red lightsaber twirls in his hand, his eyes fixed on her as he bows his head respectfully.
Princess.
Who are you?
Revan. I am a child of the Force, just like you. But there is no time to explain. We must leave here while we still have a chance. I was not particularly subtle in my entrance.
How do I know I can trust you?
Well, if you don't, you are free to wait in your cell.
Leia glares at him, bristling at his tone, but she dares not say anything, not while her fate lies in his hands. Instead, she straightens her posture and hurries after him. She stops only to pick up a blaster from one of the fallen stormtroopers and follows him out. There are several guards approaching them as they make their way out. She turns and fires upon them as they retreat, while Revan protects her with his lightsaber. He does offer a quick nod of approval. The guards try to halt his path, but Revan unleashes a burst of force energy that throws them back. As they fall, he whirls around and cuts them down, ensuring that none of them can follow. Leia only watches in awe at the power this man possesses. She watches as the Imperials fall before them. It is amazing, and she barely resists the urge to whoop out. The anger she felt a moment before is replaced by jubilation, even as they reach the hallways and leave their detention facility behind. They continue to face resistance, yet none of this slows Revan down as he uses the Force to sweep guards aside like ragdolls, and his lightsaber is like an arc of death. Leia watches him unleash his power and questions whether even Vader would be strong enough to stop him. Soon enough, they reach the hangar deck where a sleek starship is waiting for them. The stormtroopers try to surround it with several setting up E-Web blaster cannons, yet the turrets suddenly spring to life and blow the clone squads apart, forcing them to scatter. Amidst the chaos, a figure steps out and fires blasters at the surviving stormtroopers.
Statement. It appears we've overstated our welcome, Master. While I have no qualms about continuing to vaporize these pathetic excuses for soldiers, the chances of Princess Meatbag escaping unharmed are low.
Then start the ship.
HK-47 takes pot shots and finishes off a few of the surviving stormtroopers before turning back and powering up the engines. Revan and Leia follow up the boarding ramp a moment later. As Leia begins lifting it up, she glimpses a figure standing by the edge of the hangar, one in black armor, and watching them, Lord Vader. Soon enough, the Ebon Hawk takes off and leaves the Death Star behind them. As the station disappears in the distance, she can at last marvel at the machine before her. It is larger than she predicted, and much more dangerous. So far, it had only fired at partial capacity, but that attack on Alderaan was something else.
It certainly is a powerful construct, is it not?
It is a monstrosity, and I will destroy it. Tell me, Revan, you saved me. Were you doing this in the name of the Rebel Alliance, or was someone employing you to bring me somewhere?
Neither, Princess. I'm not some mercenary to be ordered around. I'm a being of the Force, and I have found the galaxy in a sorry state since the Empire's takeover. A fool sits atop the throne and makes a mockery of everything I have fought for. I will see him end.
Then we share the same goal. Will you help me destroy him?
Destroy him? And how do you intend to do that?
You are a powerful warrior, someone capable of matching Darth Vader, and I have an army. Take me back to the Rebel Alliance, and I will get you an army to destroy him.
A bit arrogant of you to demand something like that with your paltry forces. As much of a shadow as the Empire is to the true Sith, they are still a formidable force, and your forces have lacked the abilities to win a decisive battle until now. And even then, it nearly ended with your capture. No, the rebels are not ready, and we cannot rely on them for victory.
We had struck a blow that the Empire is still reeling from. We've lit a spark, Now it is time to build a flame.
You are at least right there. We must fan the flames while we have the advantage. But make no mistake, you cannot defeat this empire by nipping at its heels. If we are to succeed, we cannot simply challenge them militarily. We must destroy them with the same powers they try to control, and that is where you come in. You have the potential to harness that power, if you are willing to reach out for it.
He looks over at Leia, meeting her gaze as he glares at him. He can sense the anger in her, the rage watching her homeworld destroyed. Revan senses her power in the Force and realizes that this girl has the potential to become a powerful apprentice.
So, what do you say, young one? Do you want to continue leading your rebellion, or are you prepared to take the power offered before you?
Leia looks over at the mysterious warrior, her fingers tightening into a fist, and then she dips her head down, saying she will join him. Before they depart, Leia sends a secret message to the Rebel Alliance, telling them to evacuate Dantooine. This allows them to escape before the Death Star arrives, leaving Tarkin empty-handed. The Rebels' escape is a major humiliation for the governor, who has just attacked Alderaan, an Imperial world, and now has nothing to show for it. Far from being a victory, many are shocked to hear of his actions, as many question what possessed him to do this. This leaves him in a difficult position, as he must now find the Rebel Alliance, and quickly, before his enemies can fully capitalize on this advantage. Despite that, Vader remains interested in this plan. His mind still thinks of the mysterious warrior who had rescued the princess. There was no doubt that this was a Sith Lord, and a powerful one. He determines that they are a greater threat and insists on hunting them down instead. Meanwhile, Revan and Leia set up shop on the world of Malachor, which hangs in silence. The broken remains of Sith temples rise like jagged teeth from the scorched ground, their obsidian walls humming with ancient energy. Leia stands at the edge of a collapsed coliseum, her cloak whipping behind her. A memory sears through her, Alderaan exploding, her mother's smile, her father's voice, then silence, all vanished in an instant, just to prove a point.
I still see them. I still hear them. When I'm awake, when I'm asleep, and even here.
That is the way of war. Though it may end, it never leaves you. But that is where the Sith draw their strength. The Sith do not forget. We build from the ruins. That is our power.
Vader doesn't seem interested in building anything, and it hurts so much.
It hurts because what we lost matters. The pain will never leave. The only question is what shall become of it. The Jedi teach to suppress it. Some say to let it control you. But it is not that simple. Use the pain. Shape it. Let the galaxy remember Alderaan. Not as a grave, but as a matchstick. One that will burn this empire to the ground.
She closes her eyes, and the darkness answers. It has already, several times. Revan had brought her here to train, to feel the pain, not just hers, but all of the people here, to show her what the Sith, the true Sith, were capable of, and she has welcomed that power, letting it flow through her, letting the promises to destroy the Empire fill her mind. Screams echo, not from her throat, but from the air around her. Visions, they bloom like smoke from her skin, flickering, translucent phantoms of people she knew, her servants, soldiers from the Tantive Four, even the lost on Scarif. Revan stiffens. His hand goes to his saber, but Leia doesn't falter. She opens her eyes and gestures for them to halt. The phantoms obey. They hover, spectral, surrounding her like mourners at a silent funeral. Revan approaches one of the phantoms. It snarls, a flickering shape of grief and rage. His hand hovers just inches from it, but he cannot touch it.
In all my years, even the Emperor could not summon the dead like this.
They're not dead. They're memories. Mine, echoes that won't fade.
Revan studies her for a long moment. Then, for the first time, he kneels. Not in submission, but in reverence. Leia's hands tremble, but she stands tall.
Teach me to control them. I won't let grief chain me. I'll wield it.
Revan rises slowly, nodding once. He gestures toward the darkened temple, steps behind them, where the ancient Sith glyphs glow to life as they pass. Leia walks beside him, the phantoms drifting after her like a cloak of mournful fire. Though Revan has little knowledge of these things, he quickly begins to understand them. They are creatures born out of grief and darkness, summoned here thanks to the dark energy of Malachor. This makes them strong, but it also makes them dangerous. They cannot be as easily controlled as living beings. They are guided only by pain and grief, Leia feels. So that is what Revan teaches her. He shows her how to anchor those feelings, to unleash them where they can be best used, and to test the full extent of their powers. Here, HK-47 proves useful. He does not fear them and gladly experiments on what these creatures can do. The droid also tests its capabilities in asymmetrical warfare. As Revan observes this, the stirrings of an idea begin to form in his mind. By the time they finish their first round of training, Leia emerges as a completely different woman. Now she has embraced the teachings of the dark side from Revan. and is ready to do whatever it takes to achieve victory against the Empire. She sends a message ahead, saying she will return to rejoin the Rebel Alliance in their new base of Hoth. At first, the leadership does not believe it, thinking this must be an Imperial trap. But as the Ebon Hawk descends onto the landing pad, the Rebel leader's eyes widen as they see Leia, now garbed in dark robes with a lightsaber by her side. Even more imposing are Revan and HK-47's appearances, both of whom look ready to fight, but none are more surprised than Obi-Wan. The Jedi Master had heeded Leia's call and joined Luke and Han Solo to search for her, but they had learned she had escaped the Death Star and spent their time scouring the galaxy for her, hoping to track her down before the Empire did.
Leia, when I heard what happened, we feared the worst. I'm glad you're okay. But what are you doing here with him?
Revan is a friend. He is the one who trained me in the Force. He offers his aid in the coming war.
I suspect his training was rather selective on what it taught.
Not any of the Jedi's closed-minded dogma, if that's what you were thinking. No, I decided I'd rather have her win.
And just how exactly do we do that?
Response: by doing what the Empire hates the most, making the galaxy hate them more than fear them.
I do not think this is a good idea, Princess.
Be that as it may, but Revan was the one who rescued me and helped me unlock my powers. Therefore, I'm trusting his judgment. What do the rest of you say?
Luke and Obi-Wan seem less certain, but the rest of the Rebel leadership considers it. Since they escaped from Dantooine, Tarkin has begun cracking down on Rebel sympathizers, punishing anyone affiliated with them and chasing them across the galaxy. Having someone like Revan around would be a big help, both because of his military experience and his Force powers. Soon they all agree to join forces with Revan, who soon sets them out to war. With Leia's powers and the Rebel Alliance's resources, Revan soon formulates a plan to strike at the Empire. While they remain hidden, he has smaller groups lash out. Even months later, the memory of Alderaan is still fresh in many people's minds. The attack was so massive, so destructive, that no one can easily forget that. But rather than being frightened, there is a simmering amongst the people who feel angered at what the Empire did. They are not seen as powerful, as even though they had destroyed the planet, they still failed to defeat the Rebel Alliance. And now they strike back. Across a dozen pre-selected locations, the Rebels strike. These are targets like cyber centers, communication towers, and supply depots, all in heavily populated planets. The Rebels strike at starfighters, which bombard the ground forces before small teams of commandos come rushing in. The men who do attack are dressed in the blues and whites of the Alderaan Defense Force, a constant reminder of what the Empire did. This new force, now called the Children of Alderaan Army, strikes across the Empire. Many are indeed former citizens, but others are simply men dressed up as soldiers from the planet. What matters, though, is the response. While many once called the Rebel Alliance traitors and terrorists, few can doubt that the people of Alderaan have legitimate grievances against the Empire. To many, these are people who have reason to fight them, and so long as they target only military installations, they at least tactically support the war. That is when Revan sends Leia in. The princess takes one of the most brutal fighting arenas, a border zone in the Mid-Rim, where she confronts them. As the rebels make a push towards the Imperial garrison, the stormtroopers all line up and prepare to gun down advancing forces. But what greets them isn't squads of soldiers, but instead a single individual, Leia Organa, who ignites her lightsaber. As they aim, she closes her eyes and begins summoning her troops. She thinks back to her old friends and the people of her homeworld, and then they appear, Force phantoms, dozens of them, materializing from the mist and rush past her. They roar and hiss, ignoring blaster bolts that rain down on them as they scramble to confront these phantoms. And yet, nothing they do seems to slow them down. Blaster bolts pass through them, and they shrug off melee attacks. But they can fight back and rip and tear into stormtroopers, throwing them off the wall and opening up the defenses for rebel commandos. The garrison falls hours later. This is a sight that repeats itself across many battlefields on the Empire. They watch as phantoms of all the lives lost on Alderaan come back to strike at their military. Prominent forces like Captain Antilles and other high-up military figures appear. All of this leaves no doubt about who they are and sends a stab of fear across the Empire. This isn't just a war, this is a divine punishment for their crimes. Soon enough, more attacks take place, accompanied by HK-47, Obi-Wan, and Luke. The droid makes for a perfect assassin. While these attacks leave the Empire in chaos, the droid is free to take out high-value targets. Top-ranking generals, Imperial senators, and Moffs. All those that fall before HK-47's blasters leave gaps in their leadership and dismantling entire system armies, allowing Obi-Wan, Luke, and Leia to sweep in and crush them piecemeal. While this happens, Revan looks to expand their growing pool of allies, looking to recruit other discontented factions who distrust the Empire, former CIS leaders, and even a few Jedi. All of them initially watch Revan with distrust as they hear of his connections to the dark side and the power Leia is unleashing in battle. Some fear that he might just be another Palpatine in disguise, using his position to create another empire, to replace it. But his teachings are different compared to what the Emperor advocates, although he does seem open to using the dark side. He also focuses on teaching iron discipline with its usage and how they must always show restraint and caution to ensure that they do not become corrupt. To him, the dark side is not a philosophy, it is a tool, and that means he must be the one in control, not the other way around. As the rebellion grows, it goes from a shadow government to a true rival faction, one that gains influence across the Outer Rim and in several critical sectors in Imperial territory. This is because of the growing distrust of the Empire. Even its forces hesitate, wondering whether or not they are truly fighting for the right side after seeing everything happening around them. All of this adds more pressure to crush the rebellion, and Tarkin grows desperate as Palpatine warns him that should he fail to crush this rebellion, he will allow Vader to execute him. Yet, the Death Star remains active, and so long as that is the case, this poses a major threat to the rebellion. Around a long circular war table in the command tent, Leia, Revan, Luke, Obi-Wan, and Mon Mothma stand surrounded by holo-projected fleets, rebel cruisers, defected Imperial vessels, and makeshift carriers.
Tarkin thinks we're sending a small flotilla here for a probe. Just another skirmish. We'll make it look like that, then collapse the trap.
You're inviting annihilation, Leia. If you're wrong, if Tarkin fires the Death Star, our forces will have nothing to defend against it.
Then we show the galaxy what the Empire really is. They are willing to use weapons of mass destruction. We let him expose himself, then gut him for it.
We don't have enough cruisers to stand toe-to-toe. Not unless this plan of yours works.
It will. Tarkin thinks we're rats. Let him bring the hammer, and he won't know it's made of glass.
Statement. I have discovered several caches of hyperspace mines. These would present quite a surprise for their fleet when it arrives.
And what if this fails? What if this is just revenge? Alderaan's vengeance playing out in slow motion.
Then let that vengeance be the match that lights the end of Palpatine's reign.
Obi-Wan doesn't respond, but he looks to Leia, his eyes softening, sensing the storm within her. She meets his gaze without blinking.
Alderaan is what brought the rebellion this far. We must finish it for their sake.
Not long after, alarms scream across the Death Star's escort fleet. The Imperial fleet exits hyperspace over Dantooine, only to find space itself weaponized. Explosions erupt as mined hyperspace exits detonate, tearing Star Destroyers apart mid-emergence, and then rebel ships appear, hundreds strong. The stars blaze with red and gold. The Ebon Hawk punches through the Death Star defenses, escorted by elite fighters, and the rest of the fleet targets the Death Star and its surviving escort fleet. They soon begin to exchange blows as Luke leads his starfighter squadron through the chaos and engages the TIE fighters. His men identify the Emperor aboard one of the surviving Star Destroyers. Leia, Revan, HK-47, and Obi-Wan storm through the corridors with lethal precision. Stormtroopers fall. Revan's powers are incredible as he throws men aside, and HK-47 expertly picks off the survivors. Leia's Force Phantoms begin manifesting mid-fight, ghostly specters of Alderaan's dead warriors fighting beside her, slaying the living with flickering blades of memory. Obi-Wan watches them carefully, observing Leia. He searches for any signs of her losing control and grips his lightsaber, ready to act when the moment comes. They breach the command deck. Tarkin is waiting.
You think this matters? The Emperor will make more. You've proven him right. You're just savages parading in hero's armor.
He lunges for a blaster, but Leia deflects the shot and knocks the weapon from his hand. She begins to choke him and lift him off the ground.
Leia, no, this isn't who you are.
I don't care. I'm not letting him escape. He can't leave here alive.
Believe me, I agree. But we aren't butchers. We kill them cleanly.
Leia says nothing. She hesitates, watching him writhe and struggle, but then releases him and lets him drop to the ground. HK-47 shoots Tarkin straight through the chest.
Observation. That was quite cathartic, mistress.
Satisfied, Master? Now come on. Let's finish planting those charges.
They begin to plant them along the control center and make their way down to the reactor when something appears from the shadows. It leaps down and aims a cut towards HK-47, but Revan blocks it and pushes it aside. Darth Vader skids across the floor and readies his weapon.
You disappoint me, Leia. Working with this fool. He is but a relic from a bygone age.
Response. And you are nothing but a half-melted meat bag serving a shriveled-up husk.
He's got you there.
Obi-Wan simply shrugs and nods along just as Vader rushes at them. His lightsaber sweeps around in a wide arc that forces them back, but all four of them come at him. HK-47 leaps over a follow-up strike and readies his sonic blaster. Even in close range, Vader dodges these strikes and ducks under his blow. HK-47 responds with an uppercut that sends him flying back. He flies back towards Leia and Revan, whose lightsabers flash at him. Vader manages to twist at the last second and avoid these strikes, and brings his weapon up to deflect Obi-Wan's attacks. Lightsabers clash. Obi-Wan and Revan engage him while Leia hangs back. Vader is powerful, but Revan is relentless, moving like a red wind. Obi-Wan's blades meet Vader's with old familiarity, but age and grief weigh him. HK-47 provides support, keeping Leia behind him as he fires and dodges his attacks. Each time Vader comes close, the droid pulls her back to protect her from his attacks as she prepares for her counterattack. Revan and Obi-Wan, meanwhile, try to close in and keep him pressed. They bring down their lightsabers simultaneously and try to strike him down, but he moves through their attacks and rushes towards his daughter. Leia is waiting though, and the phantoms come. A dozen apparitions of Alderaan's dead, cloaked in shadows and rage, descend upon Vader. He fights, but they aren't real. They attack his mind, his guilt. Vader stumbles as memories flash through his mind. He sees his entire career playing out, his rise in the Jedi Order, but also his struggles, like with the attack on the Tusken Raiders, his first duel with Ventress, and all the honeyed words of Palpatine. As he looks back at them with hindsight, he realizes that all this time he was just the Emperor's pawn, and for a moment, his anger dissipates, replaced instead with shame. Leia stands over him and raises her lightsaber.
Leia, stop! He's your father.
He's their killer. He's done nothing to ever raise me or act like a father. For Alderaan.
Then she cuts Vader down. With Vader dead, they are quick to take control of the Death Star and turn it upon the surviving Imperials. HK-47 takes control of it and unleashes its weapon upon the Imperial ships. One of the last surviving ones is Palpatine's ship, which is heavily damaged and struggling through space as it attempts to make its escape. But that is where Luke stops them. With the Death Star under their control, he turns his squadron to fire upon it. EMPs disable the shields as Luke flies up directly towards the bridge. Palpatine sees the approaching X-Wing, and he can only scream as it fires a proton torpedo that sends the bridge erupting in flames. The Death Star burns from within. Rebel ships begin evacuating. Revan and Leia watch from the hangar bay, faces lit by fire.
It's over.
No. Now we rebuild. This time, we do it right.
As the Death Star explodes behind them, the rebel fleet strikes directly upon Coruscant, capturing the capital with their armada while they are still reeling from the attack. Here, Leia opts to retire from politics, deciding instead to focus entirely on joining Revan's new Sith Order. Meanwhile, Obi-Wan and Luke choose to rebuild the Jedi Order. Although they do not approve of this new order, all they can do is keep an eye on it and hope that neither Leia nor Revan falls back to the dark side.
That's our theory. The Star Wars universe is a galaxy filled with exciting stories and possibilities, and we love exploring them. If you want to accompany us on this journey to a galaxy far, far away, then please like, share, and subscribe to our channel.